members of Parliament that participate virtually from outside the main Parliament buildings to ensure that they did so from designated rooms to enable the House to conduct voting on a division smoothly in an event that vote was required to be taken manually.
And to that effect, she directed all the affected honourable members to start participating from designated rooms effective Tuesday, 28th June 2022, and that on any honourable member that would contravene the resolution would be logged out and deemed to be absent from the sitting of the House.
Right, then three rulings were made, beginning with the one that Madam Speaker reminded the House that on Tuesday, 7th June 2022, when the House was considering question for oral answer 314, and Honourable Charles Milupi, Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, had finished responding to a follow-up question, Mr. Davison Mungandu, Member of Parliament for Chama South, raised the point of order as to whether Honorable Milupi was in order to contravene Standing Order number 65 by providing information to the House which was not factual and verifiable in reference to the reason for the cancellation of the contract for the construction of the Sesheke Imusho Road.
And Madam Speaker further informed the House that after reviewing the verbatim record, she found that the Honourable Minister was consistent in attributing the delay to the failure by the contractor to secure finances for the project, and therefore ruled that the Honourable Minister was not out of order.
The second ruling, Madam Speaker reminded the House that on Friday, 10th June 2022, when the House was considering a ministerial statement by Honourable Mike Imposha, Minister of Water Development and Sanitation, Mr. RKH Totela, Member of Parliament for Mpambashe, raised a point of order as to whether Her Honor the Vice President, Ms. W.K. Mutalena Lumango, was in order to contradict the Minister of Finance and National Planning by stating that the government would continue implementing the direct input support program when the Minister of Finance and National Planning stated that during the 2022 budget address delivered on Friday 29th October 2021 that a new comprehensive agriculture support program commencing in the 2022-2023 farming season would be implemented.
Madam Speaker informed the House that she had reviewed the verbatim record for Friday 10th June 2022 and found that Her Honor the Vice President stated that government would continue with the direct input support program. She further stated that a perusal of the 2022 budget address confirmed that the Honourable Minister of Finance and National Planning had indicated that the government would implement a new comprehensive agriculture support program commencing 2022-2023 farming season, but did not state that the direct input support program would be done away with. Madam Speaker then directed the Honourable Minister of Agriculture to render a ministerial statement on Tuesday, 28th June 2022 to clarify the matter.
And then the third ruling, Madam Speaker, reminded the House that on Tuesday, 7th June 2022, when the House was considering question for oral answer number 315 on the order paper, and Honourable Charles Milupi, Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, was on the floor, Mr. Chitotela, Member of Parliament for Pambashe, raised a point of order as to whether Honourable Milupi was in order to mislead the House by stating that the Ndola-Lusaka dual carriageway would be constructed using the public-private partnership model when the Public-Private Partnership Act number 14 of 2009 required a feasibility study to be undertaken before an invitation to tender a project could be made.
And Madam Speaker further informed the House that she had noted that in raising the point of order, Mr. RKH Totela did not lay any evidence on the table to substantiate his assertions that A, the Honourable Minister had not conducted a feasibility study prior to the commencing the process of advertising for a concessioner for the Lusaka-Ndola dual carriageway, and 2, the Public Finance Management Act number 1 of 2018 and the Public-Private Partnership Act was contradictory, and in that regard she ruled that in the absence of such evidence the Honourable Minister was in order.
Right, we had two ministerial statements, but we'll be back on the other side. Let's just take a short break. We'll look at the order paper and then continue with yesterday's business. Stay tuned to Parliament Television. Welcome back. You're watching Parliament Television, and a quick look at today's order paper. We have two committee reports that will be moved in two separate motions. The first one being moved by Mulobezi Member of Parliament, Mr. Mabenga, asking the House to adopt the report of the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies for the first session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 9th June 2022.
And another motion will be moved by Kalomo Central Member of Parliament, and this is Mr. Harry Kambone. And this motion, he's urging the House that they do adopt the report of the Committee on National Guidance and Gender Matters for the first session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 13th June 2022.
All right, so that is business that is ahead of us. Just a couple of minutes, we cross over to the chamber for the live parliamentary proceedings. Now we continue with the business for yesterday. Two ministerial statements were presented. The first one was presented by the Minister of Tourism, and this was a statement on the cancellation of the 2022 hunting concessions following a directive by Madam Speaker on a matter of urgent public importance raised by Mr. Munia Zulu, Member of Parliament for Lumezi, on Tuesday, 7th June, and the Minister did brief the House on the status of the hunting concessions.
And another ministerial statement was rendered by the Minister of Health, Honorable Sylvia Masebo, and this was a statement made on the outbreak of measles in Shindamo District following a directive by the Honorable Madam First Deputy Speaker on the matter of urgent public importance raised by Mr. Alex Katakwe, Member of Parliament for Solwezi East, on Tuesday, 14th June 2022, and briefed the House on the measures that are being taken to control the disease.
Right, then we had two committee reports, a report of the Committee on Youth, Sport and Child Matters, and the report of the Committee on Education, Science and Technology that were adopted in separate motions. Just about now, we'll take you to the floor of the House for the live proceedings. Stay tuned.
Honorable Members of Parliament, Madam Speaker.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation, in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, I have one announcement to make. Honorable members have received communication to the effect that, in the absence of Her Honor, the Vice President, who is attending to other government business, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, Honorable Jack Mwimbu, MP, has been appointed acting leader of government business in the House from today, Wednesday, 22nd June 2022, until further notice. I thank you. I have permitted the Honorable Minister of Tourism to make a ministerial statement.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for according me the opportunity to deliver a ministerial statement this afternoon. Madam Speaker, I rise to deliver a ministerial statement on the recent human-wildlife conflict incident that occurred in Chama North, Katombora, and Mulobezi constituencies. This is in response to the urgent matter of national, or is it public importance, raised by honorable members of Parliament in their respective parliamentary constituencies. Madam Speaker, I am grateful to you for granting me this opportunity to highlight the various measures that government through my ministry is putting in place to address the issues of human-wildlife conflict and allay the fears of the people living in the affected areas. Madam Speaker, in order to address the matter comprehensively, my statement will first address the human-animal incidents which took place in Chama North, followed by Katombora, then Mulobezi constituencies, respectively. Thereafter, I will outline the steps that government has taken to address the human-wildlife conflict across the country in collaboration with communities and our partners. Madam Speaker, Chama North constituency is in Musalango Game Management Area, located east of North Luangwa National Park. As such, interactions between humans and wildlife are inevitable. It is against this background that various areas of the constituency such as Kapalakonje, Kampunzanga, Ntanila, Mwimba, Mantepa, Kaozi Zone, among others, have experienced an increase in the incidences of human-wildlife conflict, mainly by elephants, hippos, lions, and crocodiles. Madam Speaker, the increase in the frequency of human-wildlife conflict could be attributed to multiple factors, which are limited to the following, but not limited to the following rather. Number one, continued encroachment in animal habitats by communities for various reasons such as farming and settlement. Observable increase in wildlife numbers due to better policing. Number three, sharing of water sources, especially in Luangwa River, between humans and wildlife. Search for forage by wildlife, which results into destruction of crop fields and food storage bins. Madam Speaker, in an effort to mitigate the human-wildlife conflict, my ministry, through the Department of National Parks and Wildlife, has continued to deploy officers to respond to affected communities so as to safeguard human life, their crops, and livestock. With respect to the recent incident in Kaozi Zone D, where a pride of lions strayed into a known farm and began to hunt livestock, officers were immediately deployed in the area, and in no time, the beasts were driven back into the wild and calm was restored amongst the community members. Officers have remained alert on the ground and are available to respond to another incident once reported. Madam Speaker, my ministry through the Department of National Parks and Wildlife has engaged various partners who include community markets for conservation, popularly known as Komako, which has a long-running project entitled Consolidation of Livelihood Solutions for Wildlife Conservation. This project, Madam Speaker, is aimed at reducing human-wildlife conflict by creating a community land bridge and equip communities with knowledge on how to interact with wildlife in a manner that minimizes the likely occurrence of human-wildlife conflict. We hope that this project succeeds so that lessons learned can be rolled out to other affected areas across the country. Madam Speaker, further, the Department of National Parks and Wildlife and Komako are working in collaboration with cooperatives, community forest management groups, and community resource boards to implement the following interventions to prevent measures aimed at reducing human-wildlife conflict in the area. Number one, training of community members as blasters. This, Madam Speaker, is aimed at training communities in scaring of wildlife away from crop fields, granaries, and general human settlements using chili powder. Under this initiative, 36 community volunteers spread across the chiefdoms have been engaged to help in scaring these animals. These are supported with the necessary gears and equipment to carry out the field patrols around the farming blocks day and night. Number two, development of participatory village land use plans. VLUPs, as they're popularly called, are aimed at reducing unplanned settlement, as has been identified as one of the main contributing factors to human-wildlife conflict. In this regard, traditional leaders and community members have been engaged to developing community land use plans. These plans have locally developed bylaws, which outlines the allowed and prohibited activities within the chiefdoms and/or constituencies. Therefore, the VLUP guides the communities on where they can settle, do their agricultural activities, and many other social activities. Paper trail, which is data collection. In an event of an incident of human-wildlife conflict, data is collected to help provide information that includes the type of wildlife involved, type of crop or livestock damage, location of this incident, and the names of the affected individuals, among others. This helps management to make decisions and in predicting future occurrences. Madam Speaker, fourth but not the least, other mitigating factors that will be deployed by the Department of Parks and Wildlife with the support of Komako within the communities is to plant early maturing crop varieties and alternative livelihood activities such as gardening, poultry, goat rearing, and beekeeping. This is to mitigate human-wildlife conflict in the constituencies and refrain community members from engaging in poaching activities. Madam Speaker, with respect to the incidences in Katombola and Mulobezi parliamentary constituencies, the Department of Parks and Wildlife received reports on 22nd May 2022 with regards to human-wildlife conflict involving elephants. The reports were from Kazungula district in Chief Muzogotwani's chiefdom and communities surrounding the Musotunya National Park in Livingstone. Madam Speaker, members of this August House may wish to note that elephants are migratory animals. During this season, it is normal for a huge influx of elephants to arrive in stated areas from neighboring countries of Zimbabwe, Botswana, and Namibia. We call it the Kaza region. As at 6 June 2022, this year, more than 250 elephants were reported to have crossed into Zambia. This is an annual migration that happens as the elephants move in search of food and water. In this case, wildlife police officers were immediately deployed to the area to assess the threat and take appropriate action. Madam Speaker, according to the report compiled by wildlife officers in the ministry, the crops destroyed in the areas are dry maize, fresh winter maize, tomatoes, sweet potatoes, cabbages, watermelons, and groundnuts in Simonga, Maunga, Sia David, Mujala, Lushomo, Siasop, Kasaya villages. This was reported as well that one goat, one sheep were trampled by the elephants. The animals also caused damage to 3 water pumps. Madam Speaker, the communities living in these affected areas have been heavily affected by elephants destroying various crops. At the moment, 30 farmers have had their crops and 2 domestic animals destroyed. Madam Speaker, to control this situation, wildlife police officers were deployed on different occasions to attend to the reports. Assessments were conducted and action taken by scaring the elephants through blasting, which is the gunfire, and firecrackers. This option failed, and one elephant controlled as a last resort to ensure that the rest of the herd were dispersed. The option of capture and translocation was not possible because the large number of elephants involved, which had crossed into Zambia from the Kaza partner countries, was a little bit too much. Madam Speaker, elephants are by nature migratory, like I mentioned earlier. In this regard, we are having challenges of the influx of elephant migrating from neighboring countries into Zambia. Some of these animals have been reported to have injuries, thereby making them more violent. Injuries have been occasioned by community members who attempted to kill the animals with assorted sharp objects in retaliation. Madam Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to advise members of the public to avoid such practices as it agitates the animals, increasing the risk of attack. Madam Speaker, reports of the 2 lions attacking livestock in Mulowezi, GMA, were also received from the 7th May to 12th June 2022. The lions have so far killed 13 heads of cattle, 2 pigs, and 3 donkeys. A team of wildlife police officers and veterinary officers were dispatched to the area. All attempts to capture the 2 lions failed due to the tall grass that affected visibility for our officers. However, the situation seems to have been controlled. Madam Speaker, this August House may wish to note that the Mulowezi GMA is a prime game management area, rich in many wildlife species, including lions. Hence, members of the public who are rearing livestock in the area are encouraged to take appropriate measures to ensure safety for their livestock, as it is not feasible to capture and relocate the lions to other protected areas. Madam Speaker, the problem of human-wildlife conflict is not just in the mentioned constituencies. We have received other reports of human-wildlife conflict areas across the country, such as Feira, Chiawa in Chirundu district, Jigankata, Luano, Mambwe, Siavonga, and Livingstone constituency, among others. To this effect, Madam Speaker, I can also be considered a complainant on behalf of the people of Livingstone that these animals are actually ravaging our fields. The animals mostly involved in the reported human-wildlife conflicts are elephants and lions. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, in the last 2 weeks, we have lost 2 human lives, a male aged 29 in Chiawa and another male aged 32 in Mambwe district. Both were killed by elephants. Madam Speaker, while encroachment into wildlife areas and wildlife corridors could be a major cause of human-wildlife conflict, expert opinion from the Department of Parks and Wildlife indicate that ecological and climate factors could be contributing to the high incidence of human-wildlife conflict across the country. For instance, the months of May and July is the breeding season for lions. This results in sub-adult males and, in a few circumstances, lionesses, with young cubs being forcibly ejected out of their pride by the adult lions, thereby forcing such lions to wander far away from the protected areas into community areas where they can end up attacking livestock and sometimes humans. Equally, Madam Speaker, elephants are considered as wide-ranging animals whose feeding and migratory behavior, if not recognized and taken into account in our towns and land use planning, may continue to create conflicts. Madam Speaker, some practical measures being carried out on the ground to mitigate the human-wildlife conflict include a variety of methods such as chili blasting, use of watchtowers, electric fences, and safe grain stores. Further, the use of community radio stations to educate and sensitize communities living around animal habitats on the threats posed by animals, the times that they are likely to materialize, and mechanisms for preventing harm to human life and property will continue to be employed. Madam Speaker, in order for us to use an active early warning system, government has continued to conduct regular monitoring of animal population and movement, coupled with early notification of communities and control to ensure animal densities stay within the recommended stocking rates. For effectiveness, the use of GPS satellite collars and aerial surveillance for animals tracking will need to be scaled up, save for a few communities that we already have collared animals. Madam Speaker, it is important that communities near the wildlife protected areas will always face the risk of exposure to conflict with wildlife resources. Therefore, our aim as government is to reduce the scale and frequency of human-wildlife conflict and eventually elimination of occurrences to safeguard the lives of people and property from the threat of wildlife. On their part, the communities need to desist from encroaching in protected areas. This is because experience has demonstrated that the increase in illegal settlement in protected areas result in conflict in land use and in these areas. This is a central message we communicate to communities in our engagement. Madam Speaker, our complementary measures that government has continued to implement in the delineating and demarcating of boundaries of national parks and game management areas, we are confident that the successful implementation of these integrated approaches to combat human-wildlife conflict will go a long way in preserving life and safeguarding crops and domestic animals. It is our sincere hope, Madam Speaker, that these measures will result in a peaceful coexistence of humans and wildlife. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I would like to reiterate that in line with the mandate to conserve and manage wildlife protected areas in a sustainable manner, the Ministry will continue to recognize and address human-wildlife conflict as a perennial problem requiring sustainable solutions. At a higher level, the solutions to reducing the incidences of human-wildlife conflict lies in mitigating against the enabling factors at all levels. The Ministry will continue working with cooperating partners to undertake sensitization programs in communities and in and near game management areas and protected areas. Further, my ministry will prioritize implementing key initiatives and interventions aimed at addressing the problems of human-wildlife conflict. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. In view of the fact that the minister has taken about 18 minutes to deliver the ministerial statement, I'll add 15 minutes for purposes of the debate so that the matter, honorable members can have sufficient time to ask points of clarification. So the honorable members are now free to ask questions on points of clarification on the ministerial statement given by the Honorable Minister of Tourism. The Honorable Member for Ron.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for that elaborate statement. Madam Speaker, I want to find out from the Honorable Minister, in his ministerial statement, he alluded for quite a number of issues that are contributing to the human-wildlife conflict. He cited Itezi, where we have a national game park, which keeps or houses quite a number of wild animals, and of course, human beings. Honorable Minister, you said that those that are affected where lions are attacking their livestock, they must find measures or take measures to protect their wildlife, their animals. While in the same vein, you said that especially elephants, which are injured, are agitated because of the injuries, hence increasing the rate or chances of attacks to human beings. Honorable Minister, when you said they should take measures, could you elaborate further as to whether the families that are being attacked of their precious prices in terms of cows and goats can go to an extent of putting down these beasts if they can? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much for that question, Honorable Member for Ron. I'm not sure I got your question very correctly, but I'll attempt to answer what I picked up. First things first, Madam Speaker, the challenges that we have within our protected areas is that we have an increasing threat of people farming or building settlements within the game management areas. I wish to make statement to this august House that the game management area in our country is used as a buffer for the national park. But what we have seen, Madam Speaker, in the recent past, especially for the area that our Honourable Member of Parliament has talked about, is one such problematic area where we've seen settlements which, if I could be correct, which are just 1 kilometer from the national park. Now, that in itself has put a lot of pressure for my department, my ministry, and indeed government. Now, when we encourage our colleagues to farm, or we encourage various land uses for those particular areas, they need to be in designated areas. Hence, the use of the VLOOPs that I talked about in my ministerial statement. But unfortunately, we have certain individuals who choose not to consider what is recommended by the VLOOPs, and they find themselves very close to the national park, hence attracting those animals which are looking for food. We are in partnership with our colleagues who are partners, who are experts rather, in managing communities in and around the game management areas, and we've seen successes in other national parks, and we want to replicate that in a national park such as Kafue. I know for a fact that Mumbwa West GMA is one such GMA which is extremely under threat of Kafue National Park. Kafue National Park is our pride as Zambia. It's our best national park, sitting on 22,000 square kilometers, and we want to keep it as such. We want to keep it as pristine as we possibly can by managing the communities to stay away from the park boundary, to stay in designated areas within the GMA. So yes, we will encourage them to look at alternative sources of income, alternative sources of food, but not poaching. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kanchivia.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me thank the Honourable Minister of Tourism for his statement. Maybe to stretch it a little bit, Honourable Minister, we have circumstances where in policing and trying to prevent human-animal conflict, the policing itself has created a conflict between those who are supposed to police and respective communities. I say this coming from a constituency that is also home to the Bangolu wetlands. And there have been all these issues, the community versus those colleagues who are policing. To what extent is government ensuring that there is partnership between the policing and the communities in order that you harmonize the situation? Because as it is, communities will look at those who are policing as enemies, and vice versa. And I think in certain cases, there have been confrontations which might even result in injuries or loss of life, etc. I submit.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much for Honourable Member of Parliament for Kanchivia for that timely question. And indeed, when we engage our collaborative management partners, who we popularly call as our CMPs, what we encourage them to do, or rather, the modus operandi, is that the community comes first. In you coming to police, in you coming to do conservation, what is important is that you take the community first. Let them understand exactly what you're trying to achieve. We may have heard from the media, sometimes they'll tell you to say the community is being denied of the protein from the game meat and so forth. Indeed, that is the confrontation. That is where the friction begins from. So, to answer your question, Honourable Member of Parliament, we are indeed engaging our collaborative management partners to see how best they could work with the communities so that they have concerted efforts. Interesting that you mentioned Bangolu wetlands. In Bangolu wetlands, we've got a collaborative management partner who I'm assuming is working very well in that particular ecosystem to work with the communities. And this, in this regard, Madam Speaker, I'm referring to the African Parks Network, which, in my honest opinion, has done a fantastic job within the Bangolu wetlands. But we will indeed ensure that any further engagement with our collaborative management partners deems the communities as the first point of call and ensuring that they are all on the same page with regards to conservation. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Chitambo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Minister, your statement appeared to be more reactive other than proactive. You stated that this issue, you treat it as a perennial issue, meaning that it is a bit more seasonal than often. But why is your statement appearing to be more reactive other than proactive? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Indeed, there's an appearance of how my statement is looking like. But in any case, I'll attempt to answer your question. I will answer. Yes, these problems are perennial. I'll give an example of Livingstone. The moment, on the onset of the rains in Livingstone, you will not see any elephants. And I highly encourage you, if you're a fan of elephants, do not come to Livingstone during the rainy season because you're not going to see any of those elephants. And as such, what we have existing within our 20 national parks and 36 GMAs is normal policing of those particular animals. However, once we get overwhelmed, that is when your appearance in terms of reaction comes into play. So we would only deploy more resources to those particular areas. And I'll give an example of the Kaza region, where we have all those 5 countries and have those animals roaming around those 5 particular countries. So we'll be able to now deploy more people. And in your appearance, yes, it will become reactive. But overall, we have been managing these particular animals very well. And I might mention again that in our quest to manage these particular animals within our country, we will be employing more law enforcement officers to help us mitigate human-wildlife conflict. And again, Madam Speaker, I'll re-emphasize and request that our colleagues within the various GMAs, parliamentarians within those affected areas, step up and join us into policing these animals, step up and join us into managing poaching so that they come in as honorary wildlife police officers. And indeed, we will give them an allowance when we finally fix the economy than it already is at the moment. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Sioma also raised a question relating to this. I'll give him an opportunity.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, you have explained to us to say elephants are migratory in nature. But one disturbing fact about those elephants in Sioma is that it's like we have migrated to Sioma for good. They are no longer moving out of Sioma. As I'm speaking to you, as I'm debating now, Madam Speaker, elephants have been terrorizing villagers around Matebele for the last 7 days, around Kalongola, around Nangweshi, Kawula, Mwanambao. You did tell us to say you have measures when such activities or when such elephants have become so much problematic in areas. You have given instructions to Zambia Wildlife Authority police to scare away these elephants. And many times we have seen how this Zambia Wildlife Authority police moves with a swiftness. Each time they hear a rumor, just a rumor, of a villager who has killed a rat or a rabbit. How I wish that could be the same efforts, the same zeal could be applied when they hear elephants are becoming a danger to our localities, to our people in the villages. What measures, Honorable Minister, have you put to ensure that the people of Sioma, well, we've heard about this issue of scaring elephants, which is not working in Sioma. I don't know whether the people or the Zambia Wildlife Authority police in Sioma have run out of firearms with which they could scare these elephants away from our homes. A serious trail of destruction has been left in terms of crops, serious crop damage for our farmers, such that, as I indicated last time, many of our farmers will walk out of their fields without anything in terms of food. What measures have you put in place? My people are in danger. As I'm speaking to you now, the people in Sioma, this is daylight, this is afternoon, but the elephants are by their villages. Zawa is just about 100 kilometers.
Honorable Member, order. The question has been taken. Let's allow the Honorable Minister to attempt to respond.
Obliged, Madam Speaker. Let the Zawa come in. Obliged, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Again, thank you to Honorable Member of Parliament for Sioma for that timely question. Yes, we have heard stories where my officers under the Department of Parks and Wildlife are very swift to engage when we hear about poaching, but not as swift when it comes to mitigating on human-wildlife conflict. But then again, it brings this question where we say, would you rather attend to somebody poaching, or you'd rather attend to issues regarding to warding off these particular elephants? Madam Speaker, Sioma, obviously, which is very close to our Sioma Ngwezi National Park, is one such area that was depleted for a very long time. And I'm happy that we have elephants that have come to reside in Sioma. And I'm hoping that Honorable Member of Parliament will work together to see how best we could coexist with these particular animals in that particular area. Indeed, like I mentioned in my ministerial statement, Madam Speaker, we have heightened our sensitization in most of these particular game management areas to engage with our communities. Just a few minutes ago, Madam Speaker, I spoke on the issues of how best we are going to deal with communities, engage communities on how best we are going to coexist with these particular animals. Without being reactive in nature, Madam Speaker, like I mentioned earlier, we will continuously engage our communities to live in harmony with these animals, wild animals. We will continue to engage our colleagues within the Department of National Parks and Wildlife to be more responsive when most of these issues come to the table. And also, we will definitely call upon yourself, Honorable Member of Parliament, to volunteer so that we bestow you the honor of being a honorary wildlife police officer, together with your family and friends, to be able to manage these particular animals that seem to be a threat to human life and our crops. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member from Fuwe.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, you acknowledge that people's crops have been destroyed by these wild animals. But I didn't hear in the statement what immediate measures you are going to put in place so that these people who have been rendered foodless can have food on their table. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much for that timely foodless question to the Honourable Member of Mfue. Fortunately, Madam Speaker, we have engaged our colleagues from the DMMU to ascertain, especially the ones where we have ascertained the animals and the crops that have actually been destroyed, as well as the 3 water pumps that was reported to have been damaged. So the DMMU will be in a position to give us their recommendations. And going forward, what we're trying to achieve as a ministry and obviously as government is to be able to find a standard way on how to compensate those particular individuals who may have lost their food, their crops, their animals due to human-wildlife conflict. Now, I must make mention, Madam Speaker, and make it known to August members in this House that the compensation that has been discussed with our colleagues, or rather the discussions we're having with DMMU, is that the compensation will be based on those people who are in legally designated areas rather than a person who is a meter away from the national park to claim for compensation. No, we will be looking at those ones who are abiding by the VLOOPs that I spoke about in my ministerial statement. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Mulovezi also had some concerns.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The people in Mulovezi, they have lost some animals, although my question, I think, has been partially answered. But I would like to thank the Minister for the speech, which is very good. And also I'd sent him a message personally, and they acted on that one very quickly, which I say you should continue doing that. Yeah. But my question is that the people in Mulovezi, they depend on those animals. Now, most of those, and some of those people have lost animals. In terms of compensation, when are they going to like it to be compensated? And is there any compensation? And if there's nothing, why there's no compensation? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much for that timely question, Honorable Member of Parliament from Lobezi. Like I did mention earlier, the experts in ascertaining disaster, which is the DMMU, will be able to give us a report with regards to the disaster. I could call it a disaster myself, but then maybe the definition of a disaster might not be what the DMMU is. But I can safely say, as soon as we get a report from our colleagues from DMMU, we'll be able to formally write to you, Honorable Member of Parliament from Lobezi, on what next action we will take. I submit, Madam Speaker. And thank you very much for acknowledging our quick response from the Department of National Parks and Wildlife under the Ministry of Tourism.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for that ministerial statement. I think I want to put it on record that the people of Chama North do not encroach on game management areas. It is vice versa, Madam Speaker. The people in Katangalika, for example, Kaozi, Kapalakonje, they are within the boma. They are not in the game management areas. And these are the areas, by 16 hours, elephants are already there. So I think it is important that it must be put on record that the people of Chama North do not encroach on game management areas. It's the animals which have multiplied in numbers, which are coming now to compete with food with the people in villages. Madam Speaker, I want to find out from the Minister what immediate measures, because we have been talking about man-animal conflict year in, year out, and we are not finding a lasting solution. Crops have been eaten, the DMMU assessment, people have no food. Are we going to wait for another 7 months? People have no food. Do you have any immediate plan, Madam Speaker, Honorable Minister, to fence these areas so that animals can stay in their own vicinity? I think that way we are going to reduce cases of man-animal conflict. For example, like in Vwaza, Zambia, it's managed between Zambia and Malawi. We don't have issues of man-animal conflict because those areas are fenced. So do you have immediate measures to ensure that these areas are fenced so that our people are safe and the food is secure? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament for Chama North, for that timely question. Our immediate solution to that, obviously, in my honest opinion, is obviously to sensitize the communities to see how best we could coexist in harmony with this wildlife. Secondly, Madam Speaker, obviously, is to look for alternatives, hence our need to start working with these communities and to get our partners to find other sources of income or food for those particular communities. Madam Speaker, to just give you a bit of some history, Zambia in 1989 assented to the CITES Convention, and at the time we did that purely because our animals were endangered. The elephant population had reduced to alarming levels, and hence we thought we should try and protect that habitat properly. Over the years, Madam Speaker, due to the policing and protection, conservation efforts that have been put in place, we have indeed seen an increase in these particular animals. At some point, some of us were probably not yet born. I believe that there were issues of cropping that used to happen within Zambia. But obviously, because we've assented to certain treaties, conventions, it's not just automatic that we can consider cropping some of these animals, but we have to go back and see how best we could reduce on the population. But as such, Madam Speaker, I could safely tell you the best alternative solution, other than sensitizing, other than looking for different sources of income, is to look at opportunities of translocating these animals to areas that seem to be depleted. That in itself is in our plans. You may have heard me on the floor of the House talking about restocking certain national parks, such as in Sumbu National Park up in the north, which may not have those elephants, such as other areas which we would want to take these particular animals. But that requires a huge budget to translocate those big particular animals. That said, Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Gwembe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Minister, for an elaborate and excellent statement. Honorable Minister, the lions in Mulobezi, they have not been located, meaning that they are still within vicinity. And the people of Mulobezi, I want to believe they are still living in fear. A few weeks ago, Honorable Minister, we had a similar situation in Kafue. It took so long for the lions to be located. Where are we getting it wrong, Honorable Minister? Is it the training? Is it the capacity of our wardens? Or do we need to change the syllabus so that it becomes hands-on and more practical, that our wardens are able to manage the situations? Because as I sit, I'm not really safe with the people of Mulobezi, that those lions, they are still within their locality. Honorable Minister, I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much, Honorable Member of Parliament, for that question. Quick reaction, Madam Speaker. The Department of Parks and Wildlife is well equipped to manage and conserve those animals. Number two, the very fact that those animals have not been sighted. I mentioned in my ministerial statement that this particular period we're in is mating season. And science dictates that these animals always fight for the pride. Those ones who lose the fight are meant to go elsewhere, wandering. Hence you see them in other places. There's always a vicious fight when an animal is taken out of the pride. Now, I must make mention, Madam Speaker, that at no time will you find my officers in the Department of Parks and Wildlife to go on a charade to start shooting down these particular animals. We will not do that. What we will do is to sensitize the communities, is to make sure that we duck those particular animals and translocate them to other particular areas. And I did make mention much earlier that the difficulty in locating these animals in Mulobezi is because of the tall grass that is actually happening right now. Had it been in October, maybe our line of sight would have been more clearer than it actually is at the moment. So we will continue sensitizing communities. We will continue conserving these particular animals, which we treat as our pride and joy as Zambia for our tourism sector. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. Notice of motion. The Honorable Member for Mulobezi.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies for the first session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 9th June 2022.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I second.
Seconded by the Honorable Member for Chipangali. The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies for the first session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 9th June 2022. Any debate? Honorable Member for Mulobezi.
Madam, in accordance with its mandate as contained in the Standing Order number 198, the committee undertook a study on the review of the media space in Zambia. The background of this inquiry is on that understanding that the media that operates freely plays a pivotal role in any democratic dispensation because it creates a platform for debate regarding governance issues. It also plays a watchdog role in society by ensuring that those holding public offices are held accountable. Madam, for the media to be effective, the onus is on the government to create an enabling environment through provision of pieces of legislation and the policies that augment media freedom. However, this country lacks specific laws, rules, or statutes to regulate or govern the operation of the media. As such, any alleged media dispute is dealt with using laws from various statutes, making it difficult to guide the media. Madam Speaker, given the background, the committee agrees with the stakeholders who observe that the practice of journalism is regulated directly or indirectly by many provisions of different statutes, some of which were drafted before independence and are not in keeping with the international best practices. Sadly, some of these laws have continued to curtail media freedom that journalists ought to enjoy during the course of their duties. Madam Speaker, to acquaint itself with the topic under review, the committee interacted with several stakeholders who tendered both written and oral submission before it. Madam, I'm aware that honorable members have already perused through the committee's report, and therefore I shall endeavor to enlighten only a few pertinent issues that emanated from the committee's deliberations. Madam Speaker, from the onset, let me state that the media is not operating in a conducive environment because there is no specific law governing the practice of journalism. Legislation such as Penal Code Act, Chapter 87 of the Laws of Zambia, the Public Order Act, Chapter 113 of the Laws of Zambia, the State Security Act, Chapter 111 of the Laws of Zambia, the Printed Publication Act, Chapter 167 of the Laws of Zambia, the Cyber Security and Cyber Crime Act, Number 2 of 2021, and among the laws that contain provisions that are an affront to the practice of journalism. Most of the provisions in the cited pieces of legislation are being used to the detriment of the media in Zambia. Madam, it is the committee's considered view that the above-mentioned pieces of legislation, as well as others that contain provisions that are injurious to the media, be revised and harmonized so as to curtail abuse by those in privileged positions. This will enable journalists to perform their duties without fear of abrogating the laws. Madam Speaker, another issue that hinders the flow of information is inadequate revenue. The committee cannot agree more with the stakeholders that most revenue from media houses in Zambia come from advertising. This means that without advertising, most media houses will be financially unable to perform their obligation diligently. The committee, therefore, recommends that a body to regulate the distribution of advertising space among media houses be established. This will ensure that there is even distribution of advertising revenue to both private and public media houses. This will also enhance sustainability standards of media houses because they will have relatively stable income. Madam Speaker, allow me to express the committee is profound sadness to learn that the access to information registration was first presented to the House in November 2002. This means that if the access to information registration is not presented to the House by November 2022, it would have taken the country 20 years without enacting this important piece of legislation. Madam, the committee is appalled to note that hardly a year passes without successive committees reporting to the House about the concerns raised by the media personnel of how strenuous journalistic work is in the absence of the access to information registration. The committee is further disheartened by the inordinate delay, especially that the law is not meant for the media alone, but will also enable citizens to have access to information. Madam, let me emphasize that whereas the law expressly facilitates media access to information held by public officials, the ultimate beneficiaries are the Zambian people, in whose trust the government holds information. In this regard, the committee implores the executive, as a matter of urgency, to speed up the process of enacting access to information legislation to enable both journalists and the media of the public have access to information. This piece of legislation will not only ease the work of the media personnel, but will also allow the general public to access information of public interest as and when they need it. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, let me take this opportunity to thank you for the guidance rendered to the committee during the session. I also thank the Clerk of the National Assembly and our staff for the invaluable support and the services rendered to the committee during its deliberations. Last but not the least, my gratitude goes to all stakeholders who tendered both oral and written submission before the committee. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies for the first session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 9th June 2022. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Chipangali.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving the good people of Chipangali an opportunity to second this motion that has been moved by the Chair, that this House do adopt the report on the media, information and communication technologies for the first session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of this House on the 9th of June 2022. Madam Speaker, in seconding the motion, allow me, on behalf of the committee and indeed on my own behalf, to sincerely thank the Chair of the committee in the manner in which he presided over our deliberations. Madam Speaker, may I inform this House that out of the many media houses that we interacted with during our long meetings and during our tours, only one media house was skeptical of the enactment of the Zambia Media Council through an act of Parliament. Madam Speaker, the committee therefore recommends that the executive expedites the process of enacting the Zambia Media Council registration, which will establish a self-regulatory mechanism that will, among many other things, establish for the standardized code of ethics and create an ombudsman office which will help to mediate between media houses. Madam Speaker, may I bring it to your attention that many media houses emphasized that in Zambia we have suffered an imbalanced reports due to lack of motivation of journalists. Therefore, they believe that once this council is in place, it will help mediate and sort out issues between media houses and among journalists. Madam Speaker, the committee further makes a clarion call on the media practitioners to unite and support the process to resuscitate the Zambia Media Council so as to curb the unprofessional conduct exhibited by some media houses and journalists. Madam Speaker, may I also join the Honorable Chair of the committee in thanking all the stakeholders who appeared before our committee during our sittings for their invaluable contributions. Madam Speaker, may I also take this opportunity on behalf of the committee to sincerely thank the Office of the Clerk for the support rendered to our committee. I beg to second, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. There is a point of order being raised by the Honorable Member for Mitete. What's the point of order? Honorable Member for Mitete. Honorable Member for Kanchivia can debate.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Allow me to thank the Chairperson, Honorable Mabenga, and allow me to thank the Seconder, Honorable Andrew Lubusha, and the committee as a whole. Madam Speaker, let me also thank you for allowing the people of Kanchivia to debate on this very important report. And in debating this report, allow me to place on record that we support its adoption. Madam Speaker, allow me to address myself to the challenges highlighted from page 12 to page 15 as real challenges facing the media industry. Honorable Speaker, a diverse media industry is critical and very crucial to the dissemination of information as well as providing the much needed checks and balances. At the risk of sounding as one who's practicing politics of braggadocio, Madam Speaker, allow me to note that in the year 2011, when the former government, the Patriotic Front, got into office, they found 40 radio stations and about 5 television stations. Within 7 years, Madam Speaker, the number grew to about 111 radio stations and about 42 television stations were licensed at the time. Madam Speaker, in saying so, it is important that we keep reminding ourselves because there comes a time when society undergoes collective amnesia. Sometimes it just happens and sometimes it is induced. So we must keep reminding ourselves of facts, but also to benchmark ourselves going into the future in order for us to understand where we are coming from, to understand where we are and where we must be going. The media fraternity, media industry, and this particular report, Madam Speaker, is critical if Zambia is to attain and realize its aspirations as captured in the Vision 2030. The report, Madam Speaker, makes very courageous recommendations. One of the recommendations that it does make is to bring ZNBC under the ambit of the IBA Act on page 21. This would be a gigantic step if it is to be attained because, as it is, private media is regulated by the IBA Act, whilst the ZNBC regulates itself through the ZNBC Act. So when ZNBC falters, ZNBC becomes its own referee, etc. If we are going to level the playing field, it's important that all players in the industry are regulated by the same referee. And it just makes sense that the committee captured this particular matter on page 21. Madam Speaker, it is also important to highlight the fact that the issue of the Freedom of Information Bill has been on the lips of many Zambians from the year 2002. There is every need to review and reconcile the provisions of the Official Secrets Act and the Freedom of Information Bill of 2002 in order to enact this particular bill into law. And in so doing, Madam Speaker, it just becomes very important that we understand that this debate ought to move from the province of politics to understand what is it that is good for a free society, an open society we seek to create as the Zambian people. Madam Speaker, in opening and creating this open and free society, allow me to quote the former US President, President John F. Kennedy, who said, and I quote, "The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we as a people inherently and historically oppose secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweigh the dangers which are cited to justify it." End of quote. There's every need, Madam Speaker, that as media undergoes serious transformation, we have ICT coming on board, and the media is not what it used to be. In the past, we would have mass communications, we would have one person communicating with the masses. As it is, we've got the masses communicating with the masses at the same time. The media has undergone this sort of change, and we must be able to move with changing times. Madam Speaker, it's also important for me to, at the end of 5 years, the people of Zambia can see that there was commitment to build on the successes and on the things that were working. As the wise have said, if something is working, don't fix it. You know, and if something is not working, yes, and you can fix it. So a very solid foundation has been laid thus far. Madam Speaker, it is also important to pay critical attention to the conditions of our people working in the media industry. Yes, we understand that the private sector is not having an easy time. They have to generate profits, and they've got to have business and remunerate their journalists. But it is also important that the journalists and the welfare of the journalists is taken into cognizance as we talk about promoting and realizing a thriving media industry.
Speaker, and I would want to thank the mover of the motion, Honorable Member from Mlowezi, and I should state that we support the report. And we would also want to support the recommendations that have been made there too. First of all, I would love to comment specifically on the online media space. In this country, we have observed with sadness the abuse that is there in the online media space. I think just about a week or 2 weeks ago, we preview to a publication that was there just solely done to insult the Republican president. So we would want to recommend or agree with the report on us to be able to strengthen this online media platform. Usually what you hear on news, you believe. And I should submit that online, there is a lot of misinformation when it comes to these media houses. So I would recommend, like the reporter said, for us to be able to create strong media bodies that will bring to account online media publication. I would also want to agree with the previous speaker who had said politically the former government had taken radio stations to all the 10 provinces. I would love to agree with that. But the challenge that we have faced, even when they took that, was the political interference. You realize that is very true. There was a lot of political interference when it came to these media houses that were taken in these provinces, a lot of it. You realize that in as much as we say the media houses should work with the government of the day, what should be done? They are supposed to report on facts. And I also read in the report actually also said they took note of the intimidation that existed. And they put it in the report to say that there was a lot of political interference and intimidation from the ruling party. I want to say, I think such things we should not be able to see them in this new Dawn government. In as we have opened up the media space, but the challenge that we have also, in as much as we've opened up this media space, is the challenge in regards with Zambians taking ownership to this freedom that they've been given. So the abuse of the freedom that has been given should be taken care of. Cyberbullying is something that is also of concern. You realize in the other last sitting, there was a statement that was actually issued by the Minister of Community Development. And in that, they also tackled issues to do with suicide. I think one of the things that we need to take care of is to make sure that the cyberbullying that exists in this country, we have to make sure that we put strong media bodies that will also make sure that there is control on what our children are able to see online. Hate speech is also another thing that the politicians, let me say, have managed to make sure that they occupy this space, and all they do is to make sure that they issue hate speech. So we would want to recommend that we should, in as much as we are looking at liberalizing the media, we should also make sure that we issue strong laws that make sure that they protect against hate speech. With those few submissions, Madam Speaker, I would want to support the report I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chiengi, today is for ladies. Honorable Member for Chiengi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the opportunity to the voice of Chiengi to be heard on this very important motion. I want to thank the mover of the motion and the seconder of the motion, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, am I audible, Madam Speaker?
You are audible, Honorable Member. Proceed.
Thank you so much. Madam Speaker, I just want to add a few words. When I heard the committee talking about there should be equal distribution of adverts, Madam Speaker, most of media houses are really struggling because they cannot make ends meet in terms of raising funds. As a result, the workers, the journalists are paid peanuts. They're paid something that is just made, so to say, something that you cannot even talk. I really feel sad because I know exactly going on in this industry. Madam Speaker, we've had this in the past whereby if you're not in good terms with the government of the day, then that particular media house will be like deprived of adverts. Like some big companies, which I cannot mention, you'll see them only advertising on certain media houses who are benefiting. We have some media houses like radio stations, which are in the rural areas. They cannot even be, access these big companies in Lusaka. I think if we could have some rules and laws that are going to regulate how these companies should be distributing their campaign messages or adverts, it will help other radio stations in rural areas, Kaputa, Chiengi, Kawambwa, and Mazabuka, and other parts of the country, also to feel like they're part and parcel of the media. Madam Speaker, we have a huge challenge in terms of information, dissemination of information, because we have even some politicians who we expect to help these rural radio stations to give the information. It's quite difficult to access them. You'll find that if some of these who are like, for example, I stand to be corrected that we're not supposed to discuss ourselves, ministers. It's difficult for rural radio stations or media houses to access them. The information, because Zanis has not been well equipped, so it's very difficult even for these rural radio stations to give information to the people of Zambia in these particular areas. I might say it was a good move that most of areas were empowered by being given radio licenses, but most of these radio licenses are just there to be like entertainers, entertaining the nation, instead of doing the actual work that these media houses are supposed to do. Why is it so? Because when when these media houses are not given an opportunity to access other big companies, and you see that these big companies, they also have certain areas or certain radio station where they can only advertise, then it has become a very difficult kind of business for these radio stations to operate. Madam Speaker, with a few words that I want just to say is that I want to recommend once again that the committee did a very good job. But I want to say this access to information, we all would want to access the information. But what kind of information that will or should the journalists access? We should not just say, yes, we should enact this law. No, even America is not everything that it gives to its journalists. We should specify what kind of information that should be accessed. It's not everything which is meant for the public consumption. So I think to have that law to come to Parliament, it will be the most welcome thing. But we should know what kind of information should be accessed by the journalists. We are not saying they cannot access the information. The same media houses, if they're not well handled, they are the same media houses who can bring down any government or which can build any government in power. So we should be very careful when we're talking about bringing this kind of law or to be enacted. We've heard that the first time it was brought in on the floor of the House, 2000 and something. Why is it not being implemented or enacted by any government of the day? Because there are implications. As much as we want people to access the information, maybe we should be able to say, when we say you can access this information, there should be a limitation. Even in homes, it's not everything that children should just enjoy just like that. So it's very important that maybe the law should be crafted in certain way that this kind of information cannot be accessed. We don't want even outsiders to access the secrets of the nation just in the name of accessing the information. With a few words, Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I also want to say, please, may the Ministry of Information look into the way they can have adverts, equally distributed among the media houses to empower these media houses. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First and foremost, in supporting the adoption of this report, allow me, Madam Speaker, to thank this committee for having done a very good job, and I think the report is an eye-opener. Madam Speaker, a truly independent and free media is a catalyst of a democratic dispensation. Therefore, it is important that the media should be allowed to operate in a very good environment. However, it is gratifying that post-one-party state era, we have seen mushrooming of the private media, which is very, very good and a sign of the growing democracy in Zambia. Madam Speaker, I'm aware that this committee has come up with certain recommendations, especially on certain pieces of legislations which impede the growth of the media in Zambia, such as the Preservation of Public Security Act, Cyber Security and Cyber Crimes Act, Defamation Act, and State Security Act, respectively. While these pieces of legislations are important, Madam Speaker, in order to control the media so that we guarantee individual liberties and rights, and also guarantee national security. But it is important that certain provisions in this act are very draconian, and I think there is a need that we must amend them in line with the current democratic dispensation. Madam Speaker, the committee also highlights the issue of the Public Order Act. The Public Order Act is the genesis of the Public Order Act traces back from 1955, when the colonial government came up with this piece of legislation. This piece of legislation was meant to suffocate the rights of Zambians, of Africans, from advocating for independence. But we still have this piece of legislation on our statute books, even when we have gained independence. I believe that this piece of legislation must undergo radical changes so that the rights of individuals does not lie in the police. Because currently this Public Order Act gives more powers for the police to decide when you can assemble. So I hope that the Minister of Home Affairs and State Security is listening to ensure that this Public Order Act can go radical changes. Madam Speaker, coming from the trade union background, the conditions of service for the workers occupies a very, very special place in my heart. I have interacted with both the public and the private media for more than 26 years now. The journalists work under horrible conditions, both in the public and private media. I think it is important that the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, working with the Ministry of Information and Media, should come up with a minimum wage for our journalists. Our journalists are very poorly paid. So I want to see a situation where our journalists are paid handsomely. And I'm alive to the fact that there are certain media houses which are both unionization. Certain media houses don't allow workers to join trade unions. Therefore, I think the government must come up with punitive action against those media houses which discourage formation of trade unions in workplaces. I want to see a vibrant trade union. If we have a vibrant trade union, it will be able to provide checks and effective checks and balances. The way it was in the past, the Zambia Union of Journalists used to be a very, very vibrant trade union. But I don't know what has happened with the Zambia Union of Journalists. Madam Speaker, the plight of the Times of Zambia. Times of Zambia is dying a natural death. I'm aware that more than 40 workers have been given a letter of redundancies. By 31st July, they have to be laid off, and by 31st December, a number of workers at Times of Zambia are going to be laid off. It's unfortunate that the Times of Zambia has been operating in this country for all these years, and then we have allowed these Times of Zambia to die a natural death. It's a very, very sad development indeed. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, there are so many areas which the committee has highlighted, especially on the newsprint. Newsprint and broadcasting equipment are quite very expensive, and we want to appeal to the Minister of Finance that in the 2023 national budget, let's exempt this newsprint, exempt tax on newsprint and broadcasting equipment, so that our media houses are able to access these equipments. That's the only way we are going to promote the growth of the media. And also I want to see a situation where Zanis is in all the districts in this country. In Chama, we don't have Zanis, and I'm happy that the Minister of Media actually, we are going to have an office very soon, and it's my appeal that as quickly as possible, I think it is important that the people of Chama North also deserves to have access to information. So with these few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support the adoption of this report. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mbavala.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And I wish to begin by thanking the committee chair on media and communications, Engineer Mabenga, and the seconder of the report, Honorable Rubusha. Madam Speaker, thank you for awarding the people of Mbabara the opportunity to support the motion or the report on the media and communication situation in the country. As the people of Mbabara, we are extremely happy to second the report that the country has now seen an improved environment in as far as the media space is concerned, Madam Speaker. I wish to actually thank His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema for this excellent job well done, and the Minister of Information, Madam Honorable Josh Kasanda, because we're no longer seeing, Madam Speaker, the invasion of radio stations, TV stations, and other media houses. Something that became institutionalized in the last few years, Madam Speaker. It was now part and parcel of operation of the media in this country, that they are always being invaded by cadres and other political hooligans. But since the new Dawn government came into office, we have not seen a single case of these cadres and other political operatives invading any media house.
Order, Honorable Member, the use of the word hooligans. Please withdraw and replace it with the...
I withdraw, Madam Speaker, and replace it with political operatives. Madam Speaker, this environment which has been brought by the new Dawn has demonstrated to us, Madam Speaker, that what we need, we do not only need good people in office, but we also need strong and good institutions to self-regulate and manage ourselves. This is what brings me to the Zambia Media Council, as proposed in the report, for self-regulation. However, Madam Speaker, I want to caution that self-regulation must come with responsibility. So much that those people who regulate themselves are able to know that their freedoms end somewhere and somebody's freedoms also begin. What we saw through the sponsored video of some young people the other day, Madam Speaker, demonstrates that level of responsibility, where media is used, or social media is used, to insult and bring the name of His Excellency in bad room to all of us. That level of responsibility, the sponsors of such, Madam Speaker, must be hunted down. Because this is not an action that is independent. This is an action that is sponsored by people who are not happy that currently we are enjoying freedom of association, freedom of assembly, freedom of talking, and all that is all the freedoms that are happening right now, Madam Speaker. The taking, the expansion of the media to all areas all came under threat, Madam Speaker. Even a small radio station such as Macha Radio in my constituency, Madam Speaker, was threatened with a rate of closure. This is a small radio station. This is how we operated in the past few years, which was very, very sad, Madam Speaker. What we need is to empower such small radio stations, such as Macha Radio and other community radio stations, with state support for them to operate nicely and bring out community news to the communities. Share programs on agriculture, so that we need the developmental media. Share information about sports and other things that are happening in the country. Share information about policing and community policing for us who are having cattle being stolen and the like. That's what we need with those small radio stations in the communities. These are community radio stations. They should be talking about what is going on in every part of a constituency, such as my constituency, Mbavara, talking what is going on in Mangunza, what is going on in Mapanza, in Smahowe and the like, as opposed to closing small radio stations, community radio stations, on account of this and that breach. Madam Speaker, never again should this country undergo such kind of behavior. Madam Speaker, I want also to speak a little bit on cybersecurity and other national laws that indeed have been cited in that report that need to be taken care of as the media goes ahead to self-regulate, that indeed we need to be cognizant of these state laws that also depend on what the media can cover and what they can cover. Like I mentioned earlier, what we are looking for and which we are seconding for is strong institutions headed by good people that have a conscience that they are dealing with other human beings and need to take responsibility for what they are doing. Madam Speaker, with these remarks, I want to remind the state about those closures we experienced at Movie TV, Prime TV, and others. These are stations that today are daring to a number of people who supported their closure. Madam Speaker, such is the hypocrisy that we talk about in this country. And Madam Speaker, such hypocrisy is what we want to eradicate so that the country can be ruled in a straight manner, in a manner that brings about diversity and indeed is inclusive of everybody. Madam Speaker, with these remarks, I raise my case and support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Bwana Mkubwa. Honorable Member for Bwana Mkubwa. He is not available. Honorable Member for Msazala.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving the good people of Msanzara this time to debate on the media. Madam Speaker, let me start by thanking the chairperson and the seconder for this report. Firstly, let me draw you, Madam, to page 23 of the report, where they are talking about the poor conditions of service for the journalists. It is important, Madam Speaker, to note that the government really needs to come up with the law which will provide good condition of service for journalists. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I also wanted to highlight on one of the key things the report is talking about, harassment of journalists. You know, as journalists are partners in development, they disseminate the information that we as politicians or the government, they are trying to relay to our people. All this, if now these journalists are being harassed and vindicated, we distort the information or we distort the relationship that is there between journalists and ourselves. Madam Speaker, I also wanted to mention one of the most critical things that mostly in government, where discrimination is at par. Because most of these journalists who come or who goes to participate in the events, like big event where the president is officiating, you find to be given credentials, they need to maybe beg or something like that. But if it can be, we can be treat each and everyone as media houses, it will really motivate and help our people to disseminate the information where it is intended for. Madam Speaker, I also wanted to highlight one very important thing also on the employment of these journalists. Not every Jim and Jack in this country can masquerade themselves as journalists. They should be, as the report is saying, that there should be a board now that will regulate and will put some standard of qualification for these journalists. Because others are just DJs, then the following day they become journalists. So if such boards are instituted, it will help the institution to employ qualified and well-learned journalists. Madam Speaker, finally, even the age group itself, we must regulate, because in media fraternity, you find that it is where it's like it's the face or the reception of the nation. The information that we give out to our people, it should be information that will build the nation than information that will distort and divide this country. Madam Speaker, even the age group itself is very important to be looked into. Basically, finally, it's on the knowledge, at least basic knowledge of our journalists should also be given to them. With these few remarks, I thank you and I support the report. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Mitete. Honorable Member for Mitete. If he's not available, let's listen to another lady. Honorable Member for Kabwe Central. Okay, she's not able to join. Honorable Member for Chama South. Oh, it looks like the honorable members are either, well, I don't want to say anything. We'll have the Minister of Information to respond.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to commend the Committee on Media Information Communication Technologies for their elaborate report, and also to thank all the honorable members that have debated, and to assure them that I have taken note of everything that they have debated about. The report brings out pertinent issues among the following: access to information legislation my ministry has taken note of the committee's observation. The New Dawn government is committed to ensuring that the Access to Information Law is enacted. Currently, the ministry, in collaboration with the Office of the President, the Vice President, with guidance from Ministry of Justice, is studying laws that may be affected by the enactment of the Access to Information Law. To this effect, Madam Speaker, I'll keep updating the August House on the progress regarding this matter. Comprehensive media policy. My ministry has also taken note of the committee's observation on the media policy. The House may wish to note that one of the factors that led to the development of the media development policy was technological advancements. Therefore, the media development policy has already taken care of the committee's concern. The Zambia Media Council legislation. My ministry has taken note of the committee's observation. The New Dawn government, through my ministry, has received a layman's bill from the media fraternity led by Media Liaison Committee for the enactment of the Zambia Medical Council, I beg your pardon, the Zambia Media Council, by which the media propose to regulate themselves in Zambia. I have since submitted the bill to the Ministry of Justice for processing towards enactment by this House. Again, Madam Speaker, my ministry has taken note of the committee's observation regarding the TV levy. IB is mandated by law to collect TV levy. Further, the House may wish to note that ZNBC has no new system or mechanisms for collecting the said TV levy. Regarding the issue of increasing the TV levy, the ministry is carefully studying the matter and will update the August House in due course. Demotivated workforce at Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation. Madam Speaker, my ministry has taken note of the committee's observation. The House may wish to note that the demotivation of the staff at ZNBC is due to the financial challenges that the corporation has continued to grapple with. Therefore, what is required is to improve the financial position of the corporation. To this effect, my ministry is of the view that ZNBC's workforce needs to be right-sized, and the House will be updated on this later. Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation to be answerable to Parliament. Madam Speaker, we have taken note of that observation as well. Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation is already answerable to Parliament, as evidenced by the appearances it makes to parliamentary committees such as the Public Accounts Committee. Public Order Act Chapter 113 of the laws of Zambia. We have also taken note of that, Madam Speaker. However, the House may wish to note that the ministry responsible for the application of the Public Order Act, all the sections of the Zambian society, which include the media industry, is the Ministry of Home Affairs and Internal Security. Public media. The House may wish to note that the New Dawn government has restored the editorial independence of the public media as promised when we were in the opposition. We are all witnesses to the fact that the public media are now free to cover the opposition. Advertising regulator. Madam Speaker, as a ministry, we've taken note of that as well. The House may wish to take note that in 1991, Zambia transformed into a liberalized economy, which meant all businesses would operate in accordance with market forces. The principle of law of supply and demand. The media industry also a business and should operate as such, or else the country may drift back to the times of price controls. Weak media bodies, Madam Speaker, my ministry agrees with the committee's observation. This is why government supports the proposed media self-regulation to strengthen media ethics and professionalism. Tax exemption on newsprint and broadcasting equipment, Madam Speaker, my ministry has taken note of the committee's observation, and the House hereby be informed that the ministry is studying the matter and consulting the Ministry of Finance and National Planning on the way forward. Private media house, being left out by presidential entourage, my ministry has taken note of that also, Madam Speaker. The House is hereby informed that the status is no longer the same, as private media is now incorporated into presidential entourages. My ministry has taken note of the committee's observation that the House hereby be informed that my ministry is collaborating with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to address the matter on poor conditions of service for our journalists. Zambia's news and information services. My ministry agrees with the committee's observation regarding the operational challenges that the Zambian news and information services faces, and to this effect, my ministry has been engaging various stakeholders, including cooperating partners, as well as the Ministry of Finance and National Planning, for increased budgetary allocation to my ministry in the 2023 budget and future budgets to deal with this matter, among others. Madam Speaker, I would like to assure this House that we have taken note of all that has been mentioned here, and also to mention that the Independent Broadcasting Authority will be advertising frequencies very soon. So the foundation that my colleague there had spoken about, that PF had begun on a foundation of taking radio stations to all constituencies. I would like to assure them that the UPND government will definitely complete what they started, because we are the government in office. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Molowezi, winding up debate.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank the following members who have supported this report. The Honourable Member for Kanchivia talked about ZNBC coming under IBA, and also talked about self-regulation. Honourable Member for Mwandi, she talked about misinformation, online misinformation. Honourable Member for Chienge, she talked about equal distribution of adverts, and also cautioned on the type of information which journalists need from us. The Honourable Member for Chama North, she talked about cyber security, and also talked about Public Order Act, and the called on radical changes immediately, and also it talked about conditions of service for the journalists. Honourable from Bavara talked about the times of, talked about radio stations which we used to be embedded by cadres. That's no longer a case nowadays. Honourable from Sandara also talked about poor conditions of service for the journalists, and also talked about discrimination on presidential tours, which the minister has taken note of. And also the minister, we thank you, the Honourable Minister, for that report, which is supporting our report. We wish this thing will come to the floor as soon as possible. Finally, I would like to thank the committee members for the invaluable input which they put into the report. Thank you, Madam. I submit.
I put the question. The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies for the first session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 9th June 2022. As many are of that opinion, say aye.
Aye.
Of the contrary, say no.
No.
The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Notes of motion. The Honorable Member for Kalomo Central.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on National Guidance, Gender Matters for the first session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House Monday, 13th June 2022. I beg to move.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Seconded by the Honorable Member for Lundazi. The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on National Guidance and Gender Matters for the first session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on Monday, 13th June 2022. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Kalomo Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. In accordance with its terms of reference set out in Standing Order number 197G and 198 of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2021, the committee considered a topic entitled The Welfare of Women and Girls with Disabilities in Zambia, and considered the action taken report on its report for the 5th session of the 12th National Assembly. Madam, since honorable members have had the opportunity to read the committee report, I will only highlight a few concerns encountered by the committee. Madam Speaker, the committee is very concerned that available statistics on persons with disabilities, including women and girls, are based on the 2010 population census and the Zambia National Disability Survey of 2015. For example, despite the efforts by the Ministry of Agriculture to mainstream gender in the agricultural projects and programs, the ministry does not possess statistics on women with disabilities. This has posed a challenge with regard to the equitable distribution of inputs and other interventions and mechanisms. The committee is of the view that solid statistics on persons with disabilities will ensure progress in all areas of policy making and every stage of development and implementation of interventions and programs. The committee therefore recommends that the government establishes a robust, reliable, and comparable data on disability countrywide, which will take into consideration age, sex, and disability in all socio-economic spheres for appropriate budgeting, targeting, focus in programs, and other interventions. Madam Speaker, the committee is of the view that disability-based discrimination against and degrading treatment of women and girls with disabilities will only reduce with the training of key service providers in both the public and private sectors. The committee recommends that there should be continuous training of law enforcers, health workers, legal aid, service providers, lawyers, and judges, among others, on gender and disability inclusion, especially in sign language, disability-appropriate language, and terminologies for the effective delivery of service. The committee further recommends that the government should equip all officers working at one-stop centers on sexual and gender-based violence with skills to effectively resolve matters related to women and girls with disabilities, considering their multiple and intersectional discrimination. Madam Speaker, the committee observed with great concern that some pieces of legislation, such as the Penal Code Act, Chapter 87 of the Laws of Zambia, and the Criminal Procedure Code Act, Chapter 88 of the Laws of Zambia, still use offensive terminologies such as imbecile and or idiot in relation to persons with intellectual or psychological disabilities. The committee strongly recommends that these sections in the two pieces of legislation should be amended to align them with those in Section 2 of the Mental Health Act number 6 of 2019. Madam Speaker, the committee observes with concern the non-mainstreaming of general and communication skills for the visually and hearing impaired in the different curricula, which has posed a major barrier in the provision of services according to the Article 258(2) of the Constitution of Zambia, as amended by the Act number 2 of 2016. A language other than English may be used as a medium of instruction in educational institutions or legislative, administrative, or judicial purposes. The committee recommends that the government should consider reorganizing and promoting sign language as an official language to be used as a medium of instruction in educational institutions or for legislative, administrative, and judicial purposes. Madam Speaker, between 2018 and 2021, Kitwe Teaching Hospital attended to about 13,498 persons with disabilities. The committee learned with dismay that the hospital received referrals from the northern region, and well as serving former minors who were being served by mine hospitals. The committee recommends that one-stop centers, such as the Pediatric Center of Excellence here in Lusaka, should be opened for persons with disabilities at Kitwe Teaching Hospitals to facilitate a more efficient screening and therapeutic process. Madam Speaker, as you are aware, the committee undertook a benchmarking study, visit to Mauritius for comparative study on the welfare of women and girls with disabilities. The committee noted that Mauritius is the first country in Africa to legislate on corporate social responsibility. In that regard, Mauritius has set up the National Social Inclusion Foundation, which is a central body for receiving, allocating public funds to non-governmental organizations, in short, NGOs. The foundation operates under the auspices of the Ministry of Social Integration, Social Security, National Solidarity, which is similar to our Ministry of Community and Development, Social Services, to receive, manage, and allocate corporate social responsibility funds collected by the Mauritius Revenue Authority and other funds as may be appropriated by the government through the national budget for the support of persons with disabilities, among others. The committee therefore recommends that Zambia should put in place such a development and implement a framework which will ensure, for example, that the Zambian Agents for Persons with Disabilities and other organizations for disabled persons are fully capacitated and adequately resourced to carry out programs and projects. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to thank you, the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly, for the guidance and support services provided to the committee during the session. I also thank all the stakeholders for their written and oral submissions. I beg to move. Thank you.
The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on National Guidance and Gender Matters for the first session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 13th June 2022. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would want to appreciate the mover of the motion to adopt the report on the Committee on National Guidance and Gender Matters for the first session. Madam Speaker, in agreeing with the mover of the motion, I would want to state that our interactions with the witnesses who came along, one word that came out so strongly, Madam Speaker, was that there is nothing for us without us. There is too much work that has been done on behalf of the people who are disabled. Whilst the mover stated that the statistics are not known, we met some very disheartening situations along our way, Madam Speaker, as you sent us to look at this very important issue. Madam Speaker, as I continue to support the motion, I want to state that disability comes to each and every person. As we may be seated in this House, Madam Speaker, some would have left their children who are disabled, and on one of the interactions with a good member of Parliament, due to confidentiality, I will not mention him, he told me that both the mother and the father were disabled. And he is here today standing, meaning that people with disabilities can have children, and they can become members of Parliament, and they can become presidents one of the fine days. Madam Speaker, I want to bring to your attention the need for us as Zambians to support the Zambia Institute of Persons Living with Disabilities. Some of the offices, Madam Speaker, that we went to, particularly the one in Mansa, it was very disheartening. You will find that they don't even have desks, they don't even have tables. Worse still, they don't even have a permanent representative. Just someone who has volunteered, who is a teacher, is the one who is sitting in that office to talk about the people and the challenges which they are going through. Madam Speaker, as a woman, I understand the challenges that women face. However, the women with disabilities, they go through triple challenges. First, as women. Number two, as people who are disabled. Number three, as women who are living with a disability. Madam Speaker, the situation that we found with most of the offices for people who are living with disabilities were that the women who have even attained some level of education, they can't be employed today. Some situation that we met at one of the Ndola colleges on the Copper Belt, we were told the people have a list of people who have attained diplomas and degrees. However, the private sector are not able to get them. Reasons being, there are people with disabilities and they have these different rights such that when they commit a wrong, they will not be able to fire them. Madam Speaker, having had moved and looked around, it was quite disheartening. Low sensitization on persons with disabilities. Madam Speaker, it has become aware after we interacted with most of our people that there is negative stigmatization. The chair, in his explanation, talked about people who are called idiots. In today's world, Madam Speaker, we still have people who can still look at a woman who is pregnant because she's disabled and still say bad things. Meaning, Madam Speaker, what else does this woman want? Already she is disabled and she's giving herself another task of carrying a baby. Madam Speaker, I beg that there is need for us as a nation to do something about our people, because a disability can come biologically, it can come through hereditary, it can come through an accident. Madam Speaker, I want to share with you a small experience which I had that time when you saw me on clutches. When I arrived at the door, the officers told me that you can't come in. I told them to say, I'm an elected member of Parliament. How do you say I can't come into the house? They said, we don't allow clutches in the house. So I told that officer, I said, follow me. If you are going to stand with me and work with me, and no, you can become violent and hit at someone. Already it shows that even in your house, Madam Speaker, there is an issue of disability, rejection and stigmatization. Madam Speaker, when we went to Lusaka province, there are no lifts and there is nowhere where they can do a wheelchair for you. Madam Speaker, are the people who are disabled going to reach the minister? It's not possible. We went to Ndola, Copperbelt Minister's office. There are only staircases. Madam Speaker, I want to appreciate the team that I was with because I was just recovering and I couldn't have a lot of strength on my foot. They were holding me. Thank you to Honorable Kambodi and the other team members who even said she has a third leg because they kept on calling me. Madam Speaker, there is need for us to make our buildings be accessible to people who have disabilities. Madam Speaker, the buses that we use, the common buses which can be afforded by any other person, there is no seats which are reserved for people who are living with disabilities. Madam Speaker, lack of specific policy and legal framework to address the welfare of women and girls with disability. The committee notes with concern that there are no specific policies and pieces of legislation addressing the welfare of women and girls with disability. For example, the National Gender Policy 2014 makes no reference, if at all, to women and girls with disabilities, while Section 21(1)(2)(c) of the Persons with Disabilities Act number 6 of 2012 simply provides that women with disabilities should have equal opportunities to participate in all walks of life. Madam Speaker, the immediate budget allocation to the Zambia Institute of Special Education Needs is something that requires a serious attention by us as the House. Madam Speaker, with these very few remarks, I beg to move and support this motion with all my heart, with everything in me, and the people in Lundazi. I submit.
I can feel your passion, Honorable Member. The Honorable Member for Kasanengwa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I would also want to appreciate the mover of the motion on this very emotional report, and also the seconder who spoke so passionately about this report. Madam Speaker, this report has highlighted so many important issues that affect our friends that live with disabilities, especially women and girls. Madam Speaker, this only goes to show that this report needs government support in totality, not in piecemeal.
Order, sorry, Honorable Member. As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes for a health break.
Right, business has been suspended for 20 minutes, and this will see us through to 17 hours. Under consideration is the second motion of the day, and this is a motion to adopt the report of the Committee on National Guidance and Gender Matters for the first session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 13th June 2022. And then the motion has been moved by Kalomo Central Member for Parliament, Mr. Harry Kamboni, and seconded by Lunda's Member for Parliament, Ms. Brenda Nyirenda. On the floor of the House, when business was suspended, Kasanengwa Member for Parliament, Mr. Twasa, was just asked to make his contributions.
Yes, Sir Julius, and another motion has been considered, and this is a report on the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies, and the House has since adopted this motion. Then earlier on, when the House started sitting at 14:30 hours, there was a ministerial statement that was rendered by the Honorable Minister of Tourism, Honorable Rodney Sekumba, and this was on the human-wildlife conflict in Chama North, Katombola and Mlobezi parliamentary constituencies. Details will come in later. For now, we take a break.
The
Coalition of African Parliamentarians Against HIV and AIDS, CAPA, Zambia chapter, now spearheading a call to One Health approach encompassing human, animal health and environmental sustainability, has continued to undertake familiarization tours so as to have an informed position on ZCCM-IH operations in the mining sector. CAPA delegations undertook a tour of Kabundi Resources Limited, a manganese mine in Serenja district. Kabundi Resources Limited was incorporated as a subsidiary of ZCCM-IH in 2019. The delegation was led by the first Deputy Speaker, Honorable Malungo Sangano, MP. The visit to the mine was preceded by presentations in order to have the general understanding of the mining activities being undertaken by Kabundi Resources Limited. Madam Second Deputy Speaker Honorable Sangano, as delegation leader, officiated at the occasion and was optimistic that the tour will help parliamentarians and policymakers have an understanding that will enhance their contributions to business that hinges on mining on the floor of the House from an informed position.
I wish to acknowledge that mining continues to play an important role in the socio-economic development of this country, and through its contribution to employment creation and foreign exchange earnings. I'm certain that the program is timely and very important, as it will equip our members with useful experiences, knowledge and insights of the current situation affecting the public and generally the mining sector. This fostering of evidence-informed decisions will help in policy formulation that will meet the needs of the local communities, investors, and the nation at large. As the nation strives for sustainable national socio-economic development, it is imperative that decisions that are anchored on the public good take precedence. I'm cognizant of the fact that besides the large pool,
Shall I include the following? 1. As a fact-finding mission on ZCCM-IH mining operations and investments. 2. As a platform to inform and enable parliamentarians appreciate the impact of mining on the environment and local communities. 3. Provision of an arena for meaningful interaction between parliamentarians and mining experts, management and workers, so as to lay a channel for addressing bottlenecks that continue to beset the mining sector in Zambia. Madam Speaker, distinguished guests, it's gratifying to note that
Andrew Mpiakula was happy to have a high-powered delegation. It offered hope to the local people with regards to development of manganese mining.
Serenje is earmarked for development in terms of mining and the manganese in particular. Chair, it's very good, especially that you are saying that we are going to reach Kabundi Resources. We are going to Kabundi from here. I want you, honorables, to go and appreciate what is happening in Kabundi. And I'm very happy that you see for yourselves what Serenje is able to produce in terms of manganese. I know that having received you here, we improve Serenje, even economically. It will improve Serenje in terms of road infrastructure. It will improve Serenje in terms of employment, because we know that you are going to foster investment in this area.
In welcoming the delegation, then ZCCM-IH Chief Technical Officer, Mr. Tisa Chama, outlined the brief strategic plan ZCCM-IH is undertaking in line with the government policy to diversify into other minerals other than copper.
As ZCCM, we are carrying out our government plan to ensure that we diversify in terms of our mineral resource. At the moment, as we all know, Zambia has focused mainly on copper, on the copper belt. And at the moment, ZCCM has got a strategic plan, the 2020-2026, where we are carrying out government mandate to diversify the resources that we have in the minerals industry. One of those resources is the manganese that we have, and we have got a lot of manganese in the country, apart from copper, and Serenge happens to host the bulk of the manganese resource that we have, and ZCCM has got a huge, large-scale exploration license. We also have currently small-scale mining operations that we are conducting. So this morning, as we welcome you to Serenge, we particularly welcome you to our Kabundi resources, which is situated about 50 kilometers from here. We will be able to see that place. Now, Kabundi resources excites us as ZCCM in the sense that it is our baby. It is something that we started just about under 2 years ago.
Then followed an overview presentation on Kabundi Resources Limited and its operations in the area by Mr. Paul Mukuka, the Chief Executive Officer of Kabundi Resources Limited. In order to have more understanding on the investment ZCCM-IH has embarked on in the area of manganese mining through its subsidiary Kabundi Resources Limited, parliamentarians sought further clarifications on a number of areas of interest, to which responses were equally given.
I want clarity. What are your reserves, projected reserves? And also you have talked about challenges. Are you running it at a profit or losses, since you are saying a good price is outside there? Here you are getting between $60 to $70.
In terms of profitability, manganese is a bulk mineral. You need volumes to make, especially to cover your fixed costs. Last year, we didn't do too well. Like I said, we started a bit late. I think we only did about 4 months of the year in 2020. But this year, we are looking good to have a profit. That's why now we are looking at expanding on production, because most of our costs are fixed. So if you do more volume, you have more leverage to cover your costs and make a profit.
To know exactly when you came in with the element of providing a clinic and also providing water. At what stage did you do that? Was it after production or before?
Resettling the people that were on our license was one of the conditions that ZEMA gave us before we can start mining operation. So we started doing all that before we settled the people and started mining. So it was done before we started mining. ZEMA had to come in fact, again, to do an assessment of what we have done, if it was okay. That's why when I was showing the timelines, I think it was in March 2020 when ZEMA gave approval for the settlement plan that we had come up with.
During the presentations, Misenge Environmental and Technical Services (METS Limited), as represented by Mr. Joseph Kawe, an environmental and radiation specialist, gave comfort to the parliamentarians on their adherence to the Zambia Environmental Management Agency (ZEMA's) guidelines to Kabundi Resources Limited.
Kabundi Mining Resources is required that for the discharge of any water coming outside their operations going into the environment should not have any adverse impact on the receiving bodies in the streams or rivers that are nearby where they're operating from. If they're operating a smelter, they should ensure that the emissions, gas emissions, do not in any way affect anyone living in close proximity to their operations. The conditions are very, very clear with the licenses that were given to them by ZEMA.
To demonstrate the need to have a health workforce, National AIDS Council Program Director Mr. Fortune Tibamba presented a token to Kabundi Resources Limited through the delegation leader, Madam Second Deputy Speaker.
Through you,
we present a box of preventive commodities that we would like you to present to Kabundi. Thank you. Our interest here as the National AIDS Council is health and wellness of the human resources and the communities surrounding our establishment. It is very important, senior management of Kabundi, that you do have a workplace and wellness policy in place, and that this should actually be able to cover issues to do with HIV and AIDS. It should be able to cover issues to do with tuberculosis. It should also be able to cover issues with COVID. In the event that these documents are obsolete or if they are not available, I would like to invite you to contact us. We do have the capacities. We can work together with you to revise or to develop these documents so that we can be able to save our human resources better and also the surrounding communities.
The delegation then embarked on a field trip to the mining area. The first stop was at Kapumbu Primary School, which has received a facelift from Kabundi Resources Limited through construction of a 1x2 classroom block, rehabilitation of an old existing classroom block, and staff housing. In the health sector, Kabundi Resources Limited has constructed and donated a health post to the Kapumbu community. These two facilities have further been provided with safe and clean water by provision of a solar-powered borehole. The delegation then visited the site where the ore is mined in open pits, where Mr. Kabwe and Mr. Chama gave further explanations respectively.
Because across this road here, that's another license that belongs to the youths. It was again also closed by the Honorable Minister of Mines about 2 months ago because of how they are buying. So we are in between two licenses, and there was a lot of they were encroaching on our license. So we decided to come and mine this one first, so that we can leave this place and go back.
The intention and our focus for the future is for ZCCM to run the next expansions. Not necessarily with that investor, but we are going to run it as ZCCM, Kabundi Resources, which is a subsidiary of ZCCM.
Madam Second Deputy Speaker and her delegation were then led to the wash plant where the ore is processed. The ore passes through a process of washing using high-pressured water and then passes through the crusher and onto the conveyor belt for onward sorting and grading. During this process, nothing is left to chance as efforts are made to further collect the smaller pieces of ore that could have been washed with the water. The tour ended with a visit to Muchinda Boarding Secondary School, which is under construction and stands at approximately 60% completion. The school sits just a couple of meters from the open pit mining area and in the actual mining license. In this regard, parliamentarians raised some concerns.
It's not just an issue of identifying land. So can you build here? I think it is imperative that we also work hand in hand. The Ministry of Lands are together, the local authorities as well as the Ministry of Mines. Before they put up any infrastructure, it's first important maybe to also check what is underground. What mineral is there? Is there any mineral if we are to place this kind of an infrastructure here? So that we minimize the issue of demolishing very beautiful infrastructure like it is. And the Honorable Minister.
Two models. One, you fence it off by whoever the investor is. Complete it, use it to such a time that another one is completed if you want. Then they can do whoever will be. That is one. Secondly, one who can bring in with the heavy investment gives you money. They put up some. Anyway, this we have to also to wait and hear what your intentions are. But the government of Zambia has spent so much money, and we are in need of school facilities, boarding school facilities.
Construction works at the school have since stalled. Right, you're watching Parliamentary television. A 20-minute health break was undertaken at 16:40, and the House is expected to resume in just under 2 minutes' time. And under consideration is a report of the Committee on National Guidance, National Guidance and Gender Matters for the first session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 13th June 2022. Kasenengwa Member for Parliament, Mr. Twasa, was on the floor when business was suspended. Of course, Pauline, earlier, Madam Speaker did inform the House that in the absence of her Honor, the Vice President, who's also attending to other government business, Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, Honorable Jack Mwimbu, has been appointed acting leader of our government business in the House with effect from today, Wednesday, 22nd June 2022, until further notice.
Yes, Julius, and we also, there was also another motion that was considered on the floor of the House, and this is the Committee on Media Information and Communication Technologies. And this motion was moved by Engineer Mabenga, Member of Parliament for Mulovezi, and seconded by Chipangali, Member of Parliament, Mr. Andrew Lubusha. And of course, this has been debated, and a number of members of Parliament have added their voice to the motion that was on the floor of the House.
Right, so just about now we'll be crossing back to the chamber for the live parliamentary proceedings. Like we've said, on Kasenengwa Member for Parliament is on the floor of the House. Please do stay tuned to Parliament Television.
When business was suspended, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Member for Kalomo Central that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on National Guidance and Gender Matters for the first session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 13th June 2022. And the Honorable Member for Kasanengwa was debating. May the Honorable Member continue.
Madam Speaker, I thank you one more time for this opportunity, for allowing the people of Kasenengwa to add a voice to this very important motion. Madam Speaker, we, the people of Kasenengwa, stand here to support in totality the report that has been presented on this subject matter. And the people of Kasenengwa, Madam Speaker, would want to see support from this government in totality than in piecemeal. As the second of the motion, Madam Speaker, alluded to, a disability can be acquired at birth, biologically, hereditary, or maybe acquired. So it can affect everyone or anyone. And therefore, we feel that this motion should be supported in total. Government, NGOs, and other stakeholders should come in, hold hands, and try and see that people living with disability are given maximum support. However, Madam Speaker, it's very sad to note that such people are always stigmatized. It's worse for women and girls. Like the Seconda mentioned, we've seen it, we go through it. People get so much, to be mocked when they are pregnant. Women, when women are pregnant. When women sometimes, even by trying to acquire education, they go through such, mockery statements. Mufuna chani, muzaenda kutu, what do you want? How far? Why are you troubling yourself? What do you think this will do for you? Just go back home and stay. You are useless, you are nothing. So, much as it affects people living with disabilities, it also affects the relatives and those loved ones to people that live with disabilities. And therefore, education for how to care about, for the people that live with disabilities must be enhanced. Families that live with people that have disabilities will have to go through counseling to encourage them and to teach them how they can care for such people within their environment and their premises. And neighbors around. I would have loved, Madam Speaker, in my personal capacity, that there was even a subject at school that would teach pupils how to learn to coexist with people that live with disabilities. Madam Speaker, contrary to article of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, we've seen that our friends who live with disabilities have been denied a lot of facilities, education, health care, financial support. They have suffered a lot of stigmatization, and even other activities like sporting activities. Most of them are denied. When we talk about education, Madam Speaker, there are very few schools in this country that cater for people that live with disabilities. It's worse in the rural areas like us who come from Kasenengwa. You live in Kasenengwa, you have a child with a disability, then you are hopeless. You will not get anywhere. Just learn how to live with a disabled child or a disabled relative, and it ends there. We wish, Madam Speaker, as we support this report, that the government should come up with a deliberate policy to identify all people that live with disabilities, and some of them should be captured at birth, so that these people can be tracked, can be followed at a time when they are supposed to enter into school. They are enrolled into school using government support and the other stakeholders who would want to come in and support such people that live with disabilities. Last week, there was a video trending on social media about a boy, I think that was in Choma, who has no legs. And I look at that boy, I felt so sorry. I do not even think as he's seen an inside of a classroom. Why? Simply because of a disability. We have seen, Madam Speaker, children that are born with autism, and just the fact that they have autism, whether it is mild or it is a serious one, to them, they end up in the village in their homes without seeing an inside of a classroom. We wish to support this motion, this report, and say government must come up with a policy that it should be even in the Constitution. I know it's there, but maybe we don't have strong laws that can support or maybe punish people who stigmatize or who deprive people with disabilities. The seconder of the motion even attested to it that even in this house, in this institution, where rules are made, there is high stigmatization. What more in the village where you find the people that never even went to school? To them, to see someone without hands, without legs, it's a taboo. If a lawmaker can be stigmatized, what more a child born in Imboza ward in Kasenengwa? What more a child who is born in Shangombo? We therefore, Madam, feel that going forward, all learning institutions should have ramps. All health institutions with their ambulances should have special facilities that can cater for people with disabilities, for them to easily board the vehicles. All moving vehicles, transport vehicles, buses, taxis, and so on, should be equipped with such facilities to make it easier for people with disabilities. Health institutions should have ramps where people with disabilities can easily access medical services. They don't need to wait for someone to come and lift them up the stairs.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We have run out of time.
I support the report, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chembe.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Chembe to echo a word on this important motion. Madam Speaker, social exclusion of our women and girls with disabilities can never be overemphasized. This exclusion is in contrary to Article 6 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. In this view, Madam Speaker, I'll zero in on only two things, education and also other professional bodies in Zambia, to be precise, Engineering Institute of Zambia. Madam Speaker, the Engineering Institute of Zambia needs to look at its architectural works in terms of the way they do their construction in order to cater for people with disabilities. Many times when you agree with me, when we move around towns, we still have got buildings that are not accessible by people living with disabilities. Even now, there are certain constructions that are going on which are not looking in that angle of improving, or rather to reduce this social exclusion of our people with disabilities. Madam Speaker, it is time that these professional bodies, they come on board in order to help our people with disabilities. When we look at the education, Madam Speaker, most of our girls in rural areas, Madam Speaker, they cannot access education. In this view, Madam Speaker, we need the Ministry of Education to use the same schools or institutions that are existing to pave a way for those people with disabilities to be enrolled in the same schools. Because all what it takes is to employ teachers, those are specialized in special education. That will cushion this burden of social exclusion of our girls with disabilities, Madam Speaker. In the same vein, Madam Speaker, we have seen these issues of constructing certain institutions specifically for people with disabilities. That has got a psychological impact to our people. They feel marginalized. Henceforth, we need to have institutions constructed where even people who are able-bodied are, so that we improve that interaction with our people who are living with disabilities. Unlike the way it is, just that name to say, oh, this institution is for people with disability, it has got a psychological effect to the other folks. It is something that needs to be looked up so that we harmonize this social exclusion that has existed over time in our societies. Madam Speaker, the report has also talked about sign language. Sign language is a language that needs to be introduced in our curriculum. Sign language has got no line drawn. It has got no tribe. it has got no color, it has got nothing. It strikes a balance. Even in our day-to-day living, Madam Speaker, we are able to see when we are trading with our colleagues who come from other jurisdictions, you will find that before they learn our local language, we communicate through signs language. That shows you to say that sign language is critical, which should be enhanced in our curriculum, and that will lessen this social exclusion that have existed over time in our society. Madam Speaker, with those few words, the motion, it's timely, and it is really supported by the people of Chembe, especially that in my constituency, we have got a lot of people with disabilities, but they cannot access certain facilities. It is therefore the executive needs to relook and let this report not be put in the shelf and get dusted. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, the Honorable Member for Chienge.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you once again, Madam Speaker, for giving the voice of Chienge to be heard on this very, very, very heart touching motion. I must say I support it, and I hope it will not just end up being debated. And I pray that the executive surely will look into this urgently and bring it back to the House, maybe for us to change, even to make some amendments to our current laws. Madam Speaker, it's quite disheartening to see how us Zambians have neglected those people who we feel or we believe they're disabled. Madam Speaker, most of the points that I wanted to speak to have already been delivered by my other colleagues. However, Madam Speaker, allow me to talk about schools for the disabled. In Luapula province, I think we only have Mambilima. I don't think we have any other school. I stand to be corrected. We are supposed to have schools for the people who are living with disabilities in every district. In Chengi, we only have one teacher called a teacher for a special teacher, something like that at Kabwe, where there are no facilities to help our children who are faced with these kind of challenges. Madam Speaker, it's really a pity that we've taken this issue for granted as Zambians. It's high time we took it seriously and to make sure that we make our children, we make our people, we make our brothers and sisters feel to be real Zambians. We do not, even when you go in the universities, you find that those who are living with disabilities are being put together with those who are not having these challenges, physical challenges, to learn the same courses, to do whatever. I wish we could have universities specifically where these people will be able to learn at their own pace. Madam Speaker, there is a program under Ministry of Community which takes care of the people living with disabilities, where the government tries to help those people by providing them some farm inputs. Alas, these farm inputs, they end up in the hands of those who are not disabled. And I think we should come up with a very strict law that will lead to imprisoning those will be found helping themselves with these imports. Most of the disabled in Chengi, they've complained to me that they've not received their imports. They've not received the help that they're supposed to receive from the government. Those people who are not even physically challenged are the ones who are helping themselves. I think we should look at the law and make it stiffer to punish such ruthless people who are taking advantage of these disadvantaged. Madam Speaker, when you look at the job opportunities, I must applaud the government of UNIP. We used to have even a minister by the name of Lazarus Tembo, may so rest in peace. We are supposed to see more of the people living with physical challenges to be in the government. The government should be the shining example so that this can make the society maybe to start getting rid of that stigma. And I also want to thank shops like Pick and Pay. He's been employing people who are deaf. I want to say thank you for what they're doing, because even in South Africa, that's what they're doing. But we want to see more institutions employing such people. I remember in the olden days where if you go to the reception, you'll find that the receptionist will be somebody who is, I'm sorry to use this word, who is blind. But nowadays we can't find any. We can't even see those books they call barrels. We used to see them in the days of Kaunda, but you can't find them anywhere. I think like what Honorable Chembe said, we need to add this to the curriculum in our schools, and also the courses should be one of the courses each and every teacher should take, so that they can be able to also to be able to interact with the children who have such challenges, or those in the universities. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about sports. We have Minister of Sports also. I'm yet to see where there's just a tournament for people living with disabilities. In other countries, the people living with disabilities, they don't feel really like they're challenged because they've got sports that they can do. And we're not having that in our country. And it's very difficult for the society, to accept these people as normal people. I've lived in South Africa for 20 years before, Madam Speaker, where I could see those who are living with physical challenges, who are physically challenged. Madam Speaker, they would even play hockey, they would do all sorts of sports, even in schools. So we have to introduce this, and it's so entirely up to us as lawmakers to say, we are going to go this way. In every school, there should be sports that will accommodate children living with disability. Madam Speaker, I would also like to talk about the issue of buildings, which some members have talked about. There's a law which compels these people, I think it's an act which compels these people under NCC, when they're doing any construction, that there should be that provision for the people who are living with disability to be able to access these buildings without difficulties. It's really difficult, and it's quite a painful thing for the people living with disability. Madam Speaker, this is quite an emotional kind of debate, which every mother, every man should also feel like this is not the way we should take care of our women and the youths as well. I know we're talking about a girl child, even a boy child. They're also facing these challenges in our society. I hope and pray that the ministry together with the executive, they bring a bill that will help us to change the perception that the society has about the people living with who are living with disability. With a few words, Madam Speaker, I pray that Chengi will also be given a school for the children who are living with disability, for they've been deprived of education, and it's their right also to get that education. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mbavala.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I wanted to the people of Mbabara to debate on the motion of the report on the Committee of National Guidance and Gender Matters. Madam Speaker, I'd like to commend this report as it begins its arguments with an evidence-based approach. The report begins with talking about issues of statistics, the legal and policy adequacy, challenges faced, opportunities, recommendations, and the like. In the past, Madam Speaker, we used to rely on the World Health Organization or WHO statistics of estimating disability at 10 to 15% for every country, and especially in our region. And in the recent past, with support from the cooperating partners, we had the disability study of 2015, published in 2018, that has given us full statistics in terms of the disability status in the country. This has shifted our disability prevalence from the 2% which we used to quote under 2010 and the WHO ones to the 10.9% for the adults, that is in the report, and 4.4% for children, and an overall 7% across the population. Madam Speaker, this is now new evidence that uses an approved methodology from WHO, as well as the World Bank, in terms of those World Bank questions, and the UNICEF on measuring child disability. This, Madam Speaker, helps us now, with this report, to ask government to take advantage of the census that is upcoming this year or later, to ensure that we can have now sector-specific evidence, as the report calls, for example, in agriculture, the agriculture and women with disabilities. The census is supposed to give us much more detail, to go deeper into these issues so that we can be able to plan properly. Madam Speaker, the country's planning will only be strong if it is based on very good evidence. As such, sector-specific statistics will help us be able to plan properly for the various interventions. Madam Speaker, the report talks about equipping all workers with the information on disability. And I agree more around mainstreaming all levels of governmental and non-governmental operations to ensure that focal persons and other persons in these ministries are able to support various activities that support persons with disabilities in terms of integration, in line with the UN Special Rapporteur report of 2018 that recommended in a similar manner. When we talk about sign language recommendation, I'd like to say, to expand, that we need appropriate communication, not only sign language, for the various categories of persons with disabilities. Those who use Braille, those who use large print, and other means of communication. The Mauritius benchmarking is an excellent demonstration of what a country can do to take care of those that it deems need this kind of support. Madam Speaker, I would like to echo the need to strengthen the Zambia Agency for Persons with Disabilities. I think my sister got it wrong to say institute, but I think it's the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, that is the ZAPID. Because this agency needs support from this House in terms of appropriating much more funding to the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services vis-a-vis or via that ministry to ZAPID, to ensure that ZAPID can perform all its functions. ZAPID is tasked with regulation of the disability sector. It starts with registration of the disability sector. It starts with monitoring in the disability sector. And it's also tasked with the delivering services to persons with disabilities. So this is a mouthful that needs a lot of funding. And I would urge this House to ensure that more money is added to this ministry so that we can support persons with disabilities. Indeed, disability is not inability. As they say in my language, "Vurema uravora goranga." So each one of us can be disabled at any one time. So let us do the best for persons with disabilities to ensure that when we have that disability, we can be able to enjoy the equal opportunities. I want, Madam Speaker, to also cite the Mansa case. I visited Mansa some 2 years ago, and I found that the computer was not working, it had been stolen, the database, the DIS was not working. All this points to lack of funding that the ministry was not enjoying previously. Today, the ministry has had increased funding, and we hope that with the able minister that is doing a wonderful job there, we'll have decentralization of ZAPID services, not only at provincial, but also to district level. We also, Madam Speaker, want to call for community-based inclusive development and integration at community level. Instead of exclusion, Madam Speaker, in line with CBID, we should be talking about inclusion. We should no longer be talking about special schools, Madam Speaker. We should be talking about inclusive schools that are going to accommodate everybody and ensure that persons with disabilities enjoy equal opportunities. We need to take a systematic review of the disability cycle in terms of the life cycle for girls and women. What are the issues as for the girls, adolescent females, teen girls, young mothers, adult females, and aged women, so that we can be able to provide appropriate interventions. These interventions are what are going to help us to deal with the correct interventions for persons with disabilities. We should no longer be talking about sheltered employment, because persons with disabilities can do more. They are capable to do anything like you and me. They can no longer be restricted to being in the telephone booth. That is sheltered employment.
Thank you, Honorable Member. You are out of time.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mwandi.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing the people of Mwandi to also add a voice to this report that is very, very close to my heart, being a woman myself. So first, let me categorically state that we support this report on national guidance and gender matters, and we also want to recommend the team for taking this topic of warfare of women and girls with disabilities. Madam Speaker, like other speakers have said, one of the things that girls and women that are living with disabilities face, that is a challenge, is access to education. I should say for my constituency in Mwandi, particularly Western Province, right now the only school that we still have that deals with such children is Sefula in Western Province, where the late PK Shala went to. So as the Ministry of Education is considering building schools, we would want to encourage them. There should be a ratio of schools that are built in regards to people with disabilities. It's a challenge for someone who has a disability to move, for example, from Mwandi to go and access education in Sifola. That has remained a challenge, especially for most girls. And secondly is also access to medical care. This is also a challenge, especially in the rural areas. It means that a girl child has to travel for kilometers. Already they have a disability, which makes it difficult for them to be able to travel and access this medical care. And also access to buildings. Just even here in town, it's still very, very difficult for people that are living with disabilities, which is a very, very sad state. As so many honorable members are considering building maybe schools and health facilities in their constituencies, we would urge them to make sure that they also respond to this challenge that has been posed to us when it comes to accessibility to buildings. I think we've seen, as you can see already, it's difficult for women to get into politics. The numbers do not lie. As we came in Parliament last year, 2021, we only had less than 15% of women that were elected as members of Parliament.